Let's take another look at an application of a standard form equation. Let's say Peter buys feed for his horses each week. So he has some horses. He buys two different kinds of feed, a sweet feed and a pellet feed. His sweet feed costs $11.75 per 50-pound bag. So this is the cost of his sweet feed. And his pellet feed costs $14.25 for a 50-pound bag. So $14.25 is the cost of his pellet feed. Okay, he has $100 to spend per week on feed for his horses. So $100 per week. We want to write an equation in standard form that describes this situation. If Peter buys 5 bags of sweet feed every week, how many bags of pellet feed can he afford? So we want to know how many bags can he buy of pellet feed if he buys 5 sweet feed each week. Okay, so let's remind ourselves what the standard form equation looks like. We have AX plus BY equals C. All right, this is the standard form equation. So we want to, let's go ahead and define a few variables. Let's start with A and B. So we have, let's let A equal, let's let it equal the cost of the sweet feed. So A equals $11.75. We can go ahead and drop our dollar signs until the end. So 11.75, and B equals the cost of the pellet feed. So $14.25 or 14.25. C equals the total budget, the weekly budget for the feed, which is right here, $100 per week. So C equals 100. We have X, which is the number of bags of sweet feed that he buys. We want to make sure we're labeling the correct variables here. A is the cost of the sweet feed, so X is going to be the quantity of the sweet feed. So X equals 5, and Y is what we want to solve for. Y is the number of bags of pellet feed that he needs to buy, or he can afford for each week. So let's take these and plug them into our standard form equation. So we have A, 11.75 times X, which is 5, plus BY, B is 14.25 times Y, Y is what we want to solve for, it's our unknown, equals C. C is $100 per week that he has to spend on feed. So let's go ahead and multiply this out and isolate our variable, getting everything else on the right side. So 11.75 times 5 gives us 58.75. 58.75, and we still have our, well, it's supposed to be a plus sign. We have 14.25 Y equals 100. Let's move everything else to the right side except our variable. Let's subtract both sides by 58.75, so that'll give us 14.25 Y on the left side. And on the right side, we have 41.25. We can divide both sides by 14.25, which will cancel this term and just give us Y. So 41 on the right side, 41.25 divided by 14.25, and that will give us, 2.8947. Okay, so he can't quite afford 3 bags, so Peter can actually afford to buy, if we just round down, we never want to round up because he can't afford 3. He can afford 2 bags of pellet feed for each week. So 2 bags of pellet feed, 2 bags of pellet, and that's given the information that he buys 5 bags of sweet. Okay, so sweet. All right, so this is actually our answer right here. 2 bags of pellet, because we're given the number of sweet feed bags that he buys. So we're doing standard form equations here, and again, when we're solving a word problem, we need to convert it into an appropriate equation. That's the most crucial step, and then we can solve it. We know how to isolate our variables, and we want to make sure that we're answering the question being asked. The question being asked is how many bags of pellet feed can he afford? So we labeled that as our Y variable, the number of pellet bags, and we actually solved it, and we actually circled our answer just to make sure that it's not ambiguous about what we're actually answering here. So, and we want to know if it makes sense, actually. We don't want 2.8947 bags. We can't have a fraction of a bag. So we want to round down. We don't want to call it 3 because you can't afford 3. You plug in 3 into our equation, and it's actually not going to balance. But if we plug in 2, this will actually work out. The left side will be less than the right side, but actually it doesn't have to equal, because as long as the left side doesn't exceed the right side of 100, that means he can afford the 2 bags. Okay, so I want to make sure we fully understand this. We'll do one more application in the next video. I'll see you soon.